Hey everyone, it's me HawkeyeG with another faction introduction video. This time we're doing the Empire, the faction of Reikland, led by Karl Franz. Since I've done the roster of the High Elves, and I consider them to be kind of a balanced, standardized race and a good intro to Total War Warhammer II, I thought the Empire would be a logical next step, as they're a similar balanced and versatile race from the Old World. If you are enjoying these videos and you want to see more, please drop a like and subscribe as it really helps the channel, and it lets me know what kind of content you'd like to see. As per usual with the faction introductions, we're going to talk about the faction-specific bonuses, the legendary lord and what they can do, and any unique mechanics the faction might have. With that being said, let's jump in and take a look. So, here we are on a little campaign I have in progress. We can take a look at a few different things. We'll start with the faction bonuses. They're all pretty straightforward bonuses. Nothing's especially unique or related to like a specific mechanic, right? You have diplomatic relations increase with the Empire, so all other members of your race you'll have better relations with. You have increased Lord Recruit rank faction-wide. You have campaign movement range, all characters, which obviously that's pretty nice. And then you have upkeep reduction for Reiksguard and Greatswords units. That actually does couple pretty well with some of the skills that you can get on Karl Franz that we'll take a look at in just a moment. Otherwise, it is what it is. I don't know that Reiksguard and Greatswords are their premier units. Reiksguard definitely a good unit to have, but Cavalry are kind of a niche. But anyway, that's what the faction bonuses are. Basically what this tells you is that this is a generalist faction, right? There is upkeep reduction for specific units, so maybe you can kind of lean into a certain play style with the Lord and his army, but other than that, it's just general campaign bonuses for the faction, right? These bonuses do allow you to have a slightly more offensive play style while still achieving success in diplomacy as well. With that covers the faction bonuses. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward one. Let's go in and take a look at the Legendary Lord and see what his abilities and skills are like. So, we've got Karl Franz here. If we take a look at his trait, he's got Leadership +8 for his army. To say that this is terrible might be a bit of an overstatement, but it's certainly not as good as a lot of other ones. The main thing that I would say that this helps with is maintaining the advantage in even fights, right? So, and you're going to have a lot of those. I mean, even if you have to fight the Empire or you're fighting Bretonnia or really whoever you're fighting, you're not really going to gain much of a strength advantage until you get, closer to the mid game, right? I mean, here we're on turn 51. And I'm just about to get, Hellstorm rocket batteries unlocked and a couple of other nice things. But so basically what this means is when you're in kind of even head-to-head matchups, you should be able to win them because your leadership will hold out, right? It just tips the scales a little bit in your favor. Could be better, could be a little worse. It especially helps with sieges, though, right? So that you can kind of press your advantage. You also start with this Dragon Tooth weapon. Obviously, starting with the unique weapon is pretty nice. It's got some good stats on it, increases your damage a little bit, gives you public order to the local province, post-battle loot. It also has this special ability, the Reikland Rune Fang, which has a decent range around it and gives a significant melee attack bonus as well as a little bit extra leadership. Right, so this is, again, just another tool that you use to shift things into your favor, right? If you're going into what's relatively an even matchup, as soon as you pop this ability, it turns into your favor for a duration of 39 seconds. That's not bad, right? So it gives you the leadership and melee attack you need to press forward an advantage and push your way through to something new. With that, let's take a look at his skills page, and we'll kind of cover his unique skills. One thing to note here is he has a unique mount, Deathclaw, an Imperial Griffin. It's pretty strong, has some unique animations, and it gives him a lot of versatility. He then also has, his unique skill tree. You get another point for Lord Recruit rank, as well as leadership for a bunch of infantry units. You've got some good bonuses for Reiksguard. You got some okay bonuses for Greatswords. You've got another nice to have bonus for captains. And then this, which of course is great, upkeep reduction for all units in the army and recruit rank. And then weapon strength as well as unbreakable. Now, I kind of have a question mark here. The weapon strength, that's great. 1 skill point for 10% weapon strength, very nice. Attribute unbreakable can be nice. Just make sure you don't ever lose any battles or your hero becomes wounded at that point in time, right? So the benefit or focus of Karl Franz is twofold. In the very early game, you have the leadership bonus plus the Dragon Tooth ability to tip an even fight into your favor, or even to kind of turn the tide of a disadvantageous fight, right? The other thing that he can be good at is making use of an infantry and cavalry heavy offensive playstyle. For those who play on higher difficulties, obviously that doesn't work quite as well, but it still is functional, and you can use these to your advantage, right? If you take these kind of bonuses, it allows you to push with Reiksguard and great swords and create just that like heavy offensive pressure, right? Where you can flank heavy with the cavalry and you can do a lot of damage with your infantry. This, of course, is a pretty effective style against the Empire, Bretonnia, and the Vampire Counts, who you'd be facing early on, especially in the early game. If you can get your hands on some great swords or even get some Reiksguard into your armies, you'll be able to kind of go toe-to-toe with Bretonnia. If you're going up against the Empire before other Empire factions get their own artillery, you'll have a good time. And Vampire Counts are going to be coming at you with infantry and cavalry of their own. So if you can kind of outmatch them in that fight, or at least, again, you create a mirror matchup and then use the bonuses from Karl Franz to tip things into your favor once again. That being said, it isn't really how I envision a late game Empire army. You can see here, I don't even have those points yet. I'm working on getting Lightning Strike at this point in time. And I don't know that this is extremely valuable. Some of these are nice to have, right? But it depends on what your playstyle is and what you're going for. And I really like the Empire artillery, so that's where I end up going late game. With that being said, that covers everything I want to talk about for the Legendary Lord. Hopefully that gives you some tips on kind of what playstyles you can adopt with him and what his specialty is. Again, you have the infantry and cavalry specialty, but other than that, he's just kind of a generalist, leadership, recruit rank, upkeep, recruit rank, leadership, melee attack, right? So those are the kind of things to know. With that being said, let's take a look at the unique mechanics. So, since I don't have, a general video for the Empire, I don't want to consider these all unique mechanics because these are all going to be mechanics that you would discover in any Empire campaign, but we'll talk about them briefly since this is my first video on the Empire, and if you're playing the Empire, your first pick is probably going to be Karl Franz, right? So you have the Elector Count system. Essentially, once you control the capital of an Empire province, you can then select one of your lords to become the Elector Count of that province. It will give them a specific bonus to their army, which some of these can be pretty nice, right? It will give you a unique weapon. So like Karl Franz has the Dragon Tooth. That's actually from him being considered the Elector Count. It also unlocks a unique Regiment of Renown-like unit for recruitment. Those are called the Elector Count State Troops, obvious name. And basically, it'll like stock up to one of these units, but unlike Regiments of Renown, there's no cap on how many you can have. So you recruit one of these, it goes on like a 15-turn cooldown, and then you can recruit another one. So if there's some troops in here you really like, you can grab that state, and get whatever kind of unit you're looking to have in the army and start stacking them up early on. Otherwise, they can also be used, just like Regiments of Renown, to kind of get, if you need to build a panic army in response to something. It's pretty nice, right? You also have the Imperial Authority system, basically a measure of how strong you appear to the Elector Counts, a measure of your authority, kind of self-explanatory by the name. Having low Imperial Authority causes increasing penalties to your empire, but having anything above 0 gives you a small bonus. The main purpose of Imperial Authority, however, is to function as the Confederation currency. Once a faction's fealty is high enough, and you can see there's all the measure of it here, it also explains itself here. Once their fealty is high enough, they'll offer to be confederated by you, but you'll have to pay some of your Imperial Authority. You can also decline it to save some of to gain Imperial Authority from the decision. So once you get these factions high enough on fealty, you start raking in the Imperial Authority, then you can turn around and confederate who you want, more or less when you want. I definitely recommend playing the long game here. Like I said, they will extend the offer in 20 turns or so after you deny it. You don't want to take on their territory until you're ready to defend it. And depending on the pacing of the game, sometimes you can set yourself up for disaster, whether that's opening yourself to attack by the Norska or pushing your borders to the Vampire Counts before you're ready to defend it. You also have the prestige system. Basically, this is just an additional currency that you use. It's used mostly, well, what I mostly use it for is the special, like the random events that will pop up. You can use it to buy armies to defend elector accounts that get attacked during special events, or you can use it to prevent wars from happening from the elector counts, and a few other different things. You can also use it, much like the influence mechanic of the High Elves. You can spend prestige to increase your relations with other factions, but I generally don't use it for this because you don't know when the random events are going to pop up, and it's much easier to use prestige for those events instead of it costing you money from your treasury or actual imperial authority, or just not being able to handle it at all and having to go to war with an empire, province, or any other sorts of negative consequences you might have. With that being said, that covers the unique mechanics for the Empire. Again, these aren't unique specific to this faction. They would be for all. They work like that for all Empire factions, but since I haven't talked about the Empire yet, I thought this would be a good place to do it. With that being said, that covers everything that I wanted to. I think that the Empire is a pretty straightforward and well-rounded faction. There's not a lot of unique things to talk about with their lord. There's not a ton of special things about this particular faction. And that's like what makes it what it is, right? The Empire is a very balanced race. Reikland is a very balanced faction. It's a great place to start if you haven't played the Empire before and you're not really sure what you're doing. The campaign itself can be very nebulous, and of course I'll talk about that more in my campaign starter guide. There's lots of different things that can happen, and you just have a lot of different choices on which direction you want to go as well. But with that being said, I think that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Again, a more straightforward and simple one, but still good stuff to cover. A couple little tidbits here and there and some tips. So I hope you found some of it valuable. Again, if you liked the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing your feedback in the comments. Let me know if you think I missed anything. Let me know what you would like to see next. And with that being said, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.